Hey everyone, welcome back to Cody Tarot. I'm your tarot reader, Cody. So for today's pick a card, we're going to be doing your life, past, present, and future. There's a little tab for us YouTubers, and we have this little section in our analytics where we get to see kind of like what other readers are doing and other pick a cards that they're doing. And this is one that was done by White Feather Tarot, so just to credit her before I copy her. I didn't actually watch the pick a card yet, although I probably will after this, because I want to keep it fresh with my own kind of concepts and ideas and way of doing my reading, basically. So yeah, without further ado, here are the piles, here are the crystals. We have lemon quartz or citrine. I'm not actually quite sure which one this is. It's either lemon quartz or citrine. I've seen it advertised as both, actually, but that is your first selection, first group. Our second group is Tangerine quartz. Tangerine quartz. They're all points. They're all related to the quartz family, and they're all crystal points. Then we have our clear quartz right here. So if you pick clear quartz, that is going to be your piles, group 3. And then we also have our last group is the Smokey quartz with group 4. And you can take all the time you need to pick your crystal. You can pause the video here if you need to. I'll give you a moment to pick your crystal as well. All right, with that said, we're going to get on with the first group, the Citrine Lemon Quartz. We will advertise it as both, since we do not know its official name yet. If anyone knows what this crystal is, if it's lemon quartz or citrine, let me know in the comments. There might be citrine from Brazil. So anyway, getting on with the group number 1, the Citrine Lemon Quartz. Hey group 1, this is if you picked the citrine or the lemon quartz. Let's get into your reading. So I have relatively a small amount of decks I'll be using today. I'm kind of going to be doing this reading chronologically, so past, present, and future. We're going to be covering major points in the past, and then major points in the future, and then what's going on in the present. So let's get into your reading. First, we're going to draw some Moonology cards. So we have the past, present, and the future. And I will not be taking reversals in today's reading. Let's see. Group 1's past, present, and future. Present. Last we have your future. Let's see if we can get these all looking somewhat organized. I have some chakra love cards I'm going to pull at the end of reading each section, basically. And that'll be kind of like, I want to read them as like the lessons learned, but honestly, sometimes the cards come out as like different information. So I'm just going to keep reading and then we'll see what happens. So for your past, we have hold your vision. For your present, we have show the world the real you. And for your future, we have balance, spirituality, and practicality. And so for your tarot cards for your past, we have the Hangman and Strength. Then we have 5 of Swords and Knight of Swords. And last we have King of Wands and the Emperor. Okay, group 1. So, let's get started. What I'm seeing is in your past, this is kind of representing the Hangman as kind of like early childhood, and Strength card is kind of how you developed or how you were growing up until the point that you're at right now. For some of you watching this reading, if you're a little bit older, you're going to recognize your present more kind of in between these cards. And then if you're younger, you're going to recognize your present more towards these cards, or like in the middle right here. But basically with Hangman, when you grew up in your past, you had such a fascination for like puzzles and mysteries, is basically what I'm saying. With the Hangman right here and this woman kind of touching this vortex of runes, you kind of had a little, how do I put this? You have these intuitive hunches into the world of symbols and kind of mystical language at a very young age. It's almost like you were born kind of like very, very intelligent or very, very smart in understanding different like puzzles and riddles and things like that. You were a very, very clever child, and I can see that you kind of were just born that way. You also had a vision for how you wanted, withhold your vision, how you wanted the future to unfold or your life path. It's almost like you developed this part of yourself very, very early on. So it's interesting because a lot of people kind of probably told you like, oh, how do you know you want to do that? You know, don't you need a little bit more experience in the world to know what you want? And you kind of were telling them like, no, I know what I want. You know, I know what I want to achieve. I have this idea in my head and this is what I want, you know? It's just because from a very young age, you were getting visions of your future. Yeah, and these puzzles and paradoxes, right, are just kind of like a byproduct or a side product with that vision of your future that you got. You knew you were very smart and very intelligent, and I feel like with the Strength card upright, with this lion and lamb kind of interchangeability, and also the Strength card, kind of I see the Strength sometimes as a compassionate woman kind of like taking care of the lion. I definitely see that you were raised right by your parents. Like, your parents did an excellent job raising you, or you know, you were growing up with them basically, or whoever was your caretaker growing up did an excellent job. I see that they were able to take your wilder side and your more nurturing side or quote unquote domesticated side and raise you the correct way. There's a few things coming through here. There could be something along the lines where you were a very stable child, very calm and collected, and your parents were very wild, but because of like a difference in temperament, basically because your parents were one way and you were the other way could be if you were the wild child and your parents were stable and nurturing. It's interesting, there was a strong difference between your temperament and your parents' temperament from childhood, and basically like through their kind of parenting skills, you wouldn't have thought it would work, but for some reason, when they raised you, it worked out quite well, and they did a wonderful job in raising you. You know, it's like the lion laid down with the lamb, and you kind of had this beautiful synergy. With these puzzles, this may have led you to have like an early sign of intelligence, like a very high IQ, or just like a natural curiosity for these things, for puzzles, mysteries, things like that. You might have been into fantasy, but more so for the plot twists of like puzzles. Like, for example, like, you know how in like Harry Potter, how there's a lot of like different plot twists and it's a mystery and there's little pieces that have to get put together throughout the book to come to some kind of conclusion. It was kind of like that. You like mysterious things like that. Instead of just going along for the ride, you like to take an active interest in like solving the riddles or puzzles of your youth. Now, if this is something that, with these kind of being very broad range topics, this is something that could have occurred as early as like very, very young, from like, you know, like age 5 to 9 to all the way from like to age like 11 to 15 or something like that. If you're like a younger person watching this, and then some of you, if you're an older person watching this, this could even occur into like your late 20s or like early 30s. So keep that in mind. The age is going to range, so it's going to make sense to you what the age is at different points in time. I'm just going to read what I see in the cards. Withhold your vision, you kind of had this idea, this strong idea of like what you wanted to do with your life, and it kind of was put to the test again and again. But the thing is you've defended your vision with such strength and fortitude. With fixed moon, this is just indicating that you came out kind of like set in your ways. Like you kind of had a strong set of beliefs or system of understanding the world from a very young age. And you didn't want to really change that, especially with strength right here, and this representing kind of like the component component of your parents and how you grew up, there was this whole aspect when you were a child that you got a lot of values, strong values and understandings about life from your parents or from your family circle or whoever raised you. It was probably rare for you to actually get kind of like your values from your friends, although I believe you did have friends. I'm not saying anything that says otherwise, but there is this element that you kind of got most of your values from your parents, and they became firmly established beliefs that kind of like stayed into the rest of your life. Or at least in your childhood, you had this like strong set of beliefs and fortitude and vision for what you wanted out of your life. You were probably one of the kids in school that, like when other kids didn't know what they wanted to do, you knew like right off the bat what you wanted to do. And I'm not saying you're doing it now, right? Because there's this element and this element in the reading, but for the most part, you had this vision of how you wanted your life to unfold, and you kind of knew your path before you even begun. It's almost like when some people talk about in the spiritual community, how you kind of set things up with your guides basically how you set things up with your spiritual team to decide your path in this life. It's like you had remnants from that you almost had memories from that time before you were born, and this kind of carried over into your vision. You were set up really early on with a solid game plan for your future, basically, with the help of your parents, who I believe are kind of like, they were kind of the perfect, you had a really, I don't want to say easy childhood, because I'm sure with the strength card and the hangman, I'm sure with hold your vision, you had to wait for things to come to fruition. And also at the same time with the strength card here, it required a lot of strength and fortitude and determination to get ahead, right? But at the same time, you were set up very nicely. There was a nice setup for the rest of your life. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm going to pull a chakra love card. Ooh, we got this orange one. We have this orange crystal right here. We're going to see what it is. Sacral chakra carnelian. Okay, we have carnelian, and it says letting go. Letting go is not giving up. Sometimes it is the first step towards success. Okay, interesting. So something that you had to learn in your past with that holding the vision and stuff is eventually, as you transitioned into this more present time of your life, or as you transition further into your life, you had to learn how to let go of some things. Maybe you held on too tightly with hold your vision. There's an element that you knew so surely what you wanted. And this is the thing. I'm not to say that this is not your path, right? Because I do believe you have a very strong belief in like what you're meant to do in this world, or you did from a very young age. Maybe not now, but you did when you were younger. With letting go, this is just indicating that this is the areas of your life where you had to learn to kind of adapt to other people. Yeah, and you kind of learn this trait to like get success and kind of get like achievements beyond what you could normally get with kind of like your setup in life. So if there was anything that was difficult or frustrating for you, and you kind of butt your head up against it again and again and again, you learned right away that like letting go and letting things come to you was like the way to go to like get these new things to come into your life. This is kind of like early stages of learning how to receive and manifestation. Sometimes you have to stop thinking about the manifestation for the manifestation to like come into your life, something like that. With sacral chakra carnelian is also, well, especially because it's with the sacral chakra, there is a strong element of creativity. So some of you may have been really with art, like had artistic abilities. So with these symbols and stuff, you may have expressed those symbols and your understanding of the mystical kind of languages of the world, or something like that in like artwork that you've done. You may have even been good at, I have a friend, and one of her favorite stones is carnelian, and I think she's good with languages. She's also a translator. She's actually, Kino Tarot. I don't know if you guys watch her channel. But yeah, so this could be something where you were really good with languages. And also with motivation. With carnelian, this is a card about like also being able to be motivated. It's not quite the root chakra, which is stability, and it's not quite the solar plexus chakra, which is your willpower, but it's a combination of the two. This is kind of like emotional motivation. So basically you had a strong sense of yourself in your early past. It looks like you had a really good upbringing, or whoever your primary caregiver was treated you very well. Like I said, there is this dichotomy of ferociousness with calmness that is kind of mixed, or there's a blend of both. And that for some reason, a lot of people would think that doesn't work. But for you and your situation growing up, it worked wonderfully. With carnelian, with letting go, this may have been a time when you were learning this talent and this skill that you were kind of more emotional about it. Like when you had to first let go of your vision in order to get what you wanted, or you had to learn this skill, it was a very almost emotional process for you, is what I'm seeing. Another thing that's coming in with letting go in carnelian is there could be an element here where you felt like with people you were sexually attracted to or physically attracted to, that in order to achieve their affections, you had to learn to kind of let go of like going for them in order for them to kind of approach you, you know? But then at the same time, you were holding your vision strong in your mind, like, okay, I want this person, I desire this person, but I'm not going to make any moves. I'm going to kind of let go of like my forward, how forward I'm being towards them, or trying to, like, how do I put this? You learn to kind of like receive in love instead of like approach people, you know? And in a way, the strength card, how your parents raised you, or how that dichotomy happened, you learned kind of in a way how to approach your love relationships based on that, how you understood that from your parents. So you understood that if you're a calm person and you're looking for someone who's more ferocious, you know exactly when to back off and when to tame that lion, so to speak. But yeah, it could have been quite emotional learning how to do this, because with the Hold Your Vision card, I see you as somewhat of an assertive child. Highly intelligent, good with languages, but somewhat assertive. Just as a child, I don't know if it gets more like that into the future, because we see some things here in the present that show that you may have not have, with letting go and not making advances towards love relationships, you may have also not been showing the real side of you, or not showing your real personality. And what we see here with Show the World the Real You in the present, which I'll get into right now, there's an element here that something in your past or something triggered a situation in the present to make you more blunt and straightforward. You kind of decided that you're going to stand up for yourself, basically. You're not going to be a doormat anymore. You're not going to let people walk all over you. I definitely see here that with the Five of Swords, this guy in the Five of Swords, he is kind of like, has this headache, right? And there's this crow, right? And this crow is kind of like, in this little period of time, this crow is kind of like his guardian or his helper. And if you look at this, the crows are flying in the distance, and you see this trajectory of this guy who is assuming a victory position in the future. And that's the thing, especially being kind of intuitive and knowing where you want to be and who you want to become in the future. It's almost like you came to some stark realizations about your personality. You say, I have to make a change. I have to make this change because, well, first of all, it sounds like you wanted to make this change, and you just knew that you had to kind of make this change, and that this needed to happen to get to your future, which is this kind of King of Wands energy, kind of had to transfer into this Knight of Swords energy to get to this King of Wands energy. But there is the symbolism here with the Five of Swords and the Knight of Cups with the bird flying above him in the with the crossbow and stuff towards the motorcycle. There's an element that you had some kind of help with a guide or something that may have shown up as an animal spirit, or an actual animal like a pet that you got, and this pet actually helped you become more assertive, become more like yourself. This pet kind of guided you on the way to become more assertive, more forceful, more real world focused, basically. Because here we have you kind of sort of as a dreamer, which I sense some assertiveness in your childhood, but that's a lot different than showing the world the real you, showing the world your emotions, showing the world your personality, showing the world who you are. You know, you kind of were task focused over here. You kind of got these accomplishments done. But over here, there's a little consternation. There's a headache because at one point you're realizing that there's this thing it's almost like there's this thing lacking. Like you had the vision the whole time, but you're realizing that on the personal level, or like on the level of how you show up to the world, or how you kind of, even in maybe like more intimate relations, right? There's this element that you kind of didn't show the world the real you underneath it all. You know, you didn't show the world who you truly were and your real personality. And so what I'm seeing here is this transition in the present. This could be a little bit in the recent past, a little bit in the recent future, but you're going through this transition right now where you're realizing like the importance of being honest and truthful with the people around you and sharing that side of yourself. And it's kind of a really beautiful thing, because what we do get out of this is a strong sense of motivation with the Knight of Swords, and that propels you into the future. So you might notice at this point in your life, the more you show the real you, the more you share your story, the more you share yourself, the more you open up to friends, acquaintances, work relationships, people in your life, basically, the more you show who you really are, the more motivation you start to accumulate. If you look at this, it's full moon in Aquarius, but if you look at this woman, she has a water jar and she's pouring it and the water is surrounding her, right? Think of this water as kind of like your motivation that you've kept bottled up inside this whole time. You know, you kind of had these inner psychic visions and stuff, but when you get to this point, it's like time to release it, right? Time to let it go. And with the Knight of Swords and Five of Swords, all about communication. This is about communicating to others the real you and who you really are. This might be a time in your life where you actually decide to share your vision with some people, where in your past you felt like you had to let go and let things come to you because of you were holding strong to this vision in your mind. Now you're at the point where you're thinking like, okay, I can share a few things that I've been thinking of, a few things in my vision. I can see that for you, it was a very private affair earlier in life with Hold Your Vision. And now with like the future, it's almost like you have this ability to kind of be like, now that I kind of am resonating with who I am as an individual, it's almost like you understand yourself or your personality on the inside. You came to some realizations about your character and who you are and how you've developed and how you've become who you are. And now it's like I can share that in tandem with the vision. You know, it's almost like the vision had to stay inside until you figured out your identity. But once you figured out your identity, maybe this could be for some of you in the teen years or late 20s or even in your late 30s. Figuring out who you were you were able to share that vision with others and kind of communicate with others. That brought you a lot of motivation. And I'm also not seeing any cards about this, but it probably helped other people get on board with your activities more effectively than in the past, right? People probably stopped asking you the questions of, well, how do you know that? Or how do you know, people are starting to realize that you have a personality, and that sounds bad. People are starting to realize that you have like a personal identity that has grown and developed over time. And that's kind of like the selling point for the vision, right? Before, when you were a child and you didn't really know who you were yet, but you still had these ideas of who you wanted to become, people almost like laughed or scoffed or scorned at you sometimes because they thought that you were kind of being naive, or they just thought like, how could this person even know what they want in life if they don't know who they are? They need all the experiences of life to know who they are to be able to do these things. So with Show the World the Real You, you're actually showing people now parts of your past and your personality, and you're realizing, oh my gosh, this makes it so much easier for me. This kind of lubricates my interactions to the point where I can like go and do my own thing. You know, this guy, all he wants to do is ride this bike and get to his goals as fast as he can, you know, and this bird is guiding him, this kind of animals. Might be a time with this crow right here that you may have gotten in touch with a spirit guide or particularly angelic help. And with the crow here, it's interesting because crows are kind of black, right? They're kind of like the shadow in the daylight, right? So they're kind of like this idea of like darkness when everything is light. So it might be the kind of like help that's different than normal help. It might not be help that is helping you through the dark times, but it might be help that when things are light and happy and stuff, sometimes that can elude us and crowd out some of our deeper desires and deeper instincts. And so sometimes getting in touch with the darker side of yourself can actually help bring out more light in you and more like ability to connect with other people. Okay, let's get into your chakra love card for your present. Okay, we have root chakra. Interesting. So this is the crystal right here. It's a painting of a crystal. I think all of them are paintings of crystals. And we have root chakra, Smokey quartz strength. Strength comes from your connection to the root of your being. Exactly what I was saying. So, and this is important too, because it might be interesting to note that it's not your personality and how you've grown up and all the experiences that made you who you are that is the root of your being. It's actually your visions. It's actually kind of like your curiosity as a child that is kind of the root of who you are. And it's interesting because this personality part of you is how you kind of lubricate yourself in certain, I'm saying the word lubricate as in it makes it easier, but it's how you make situations easier and work better to your advantage. And it's like, now people are like, okay, they start to believe you now because they're like, oh, they have the experience, they have the know-how, they know how, the world works. They're kind of had experience, they've had life lessons. We can kind of start taking them seriously. But it's telling you right now, the strength comes from your connection to the root of your being. So as much as this is easier, makes the world easier, communicating with your guides, sharing yourself with others, showing people that you've had hardships, experiences, showing them the darkness within to help make your world, your way in the world better, showing them that you're more human, right? That is helpful, right? But don't forget that your strength comes from your connection to the root of your being, those visions, that ability, that in that wonderful way that your parents raised you and your values that you started with. And especially this sense of mystery, this sense of connection to languages and mystical, runes are interesting because runes are one part a language and one part a divination tool. So think of this as kind of like, I thought like puzzles in the beginning of the reading, but this could also be if you're like into tarot or you're studying to become a tarot reader, or you're like into like using like rune dice or anything like that. This could be a strong indication that going back to those roots of kind of like your fantasy dimension, what you fantasized about as a child, what kind of toys you played with and stuff is really holding the key to your success. And that's important to know right here, because as you're sharing yourself with people, remember that this is just a tool to connect with others. People, in a way, it's like showing the real you is how you're connecting with people, but holding your vision and your vision that you have in your mind, that's kind of your core identity. So keep that in mind. That's what this card's trying to remind you. And let's get into your future. Interestingly enough, in your future with balanced spirituality and practicality, you're coming into a more practical side of yourself. So whereas at first you had more of a vision and you were able to get things done for the most part, and in this part you're kind of getting in touch with your personality and showing it to the world. In the future, you take more of a practical mindset to tasks, and you're actually able to get things done in a more realistic way. So if you're the type of person who struggles with typical day-to-day activities, as far as like maybe you don't know how to, fix a toilet, or maybe you don't know how to like fix a TV or something like that, or maybe you struggle with technical areas or something like that. In the future, I definitely see that with the practical side of life, getting normal day-to-day things done, you're going to get more proficient at those things, basically. And with spirituality and practicality, it's interesting because you start to learn that your spiritual side, which kind of showed up with some of your angels and guides with this crow spirit right here, you're learning that the spirituality and practicality are two sides of the same coin, or in a way they're two, like, it's like these fish here kind of, to me, represent like yin and yang. There's a little bit of spirituality and practicality, and there's a little bit of practicality and spirituality. So as far as your life goes in the future, first of all, with the King of Wands, you develop into this kind of like courageous leader, right? And you have a sense of self-esteem with the lion here and the pride. You have this wonderful, amazing, unshakable self-esteem, right? We have the strength card with the lamb here, and this is kind of going back to kind of how you were raised as well. There is an element where with this lion, it's like you become the beast within. So for example, if you were a more gentle nature, which is what I'm seeing for most of you, some of you would be more ferocious as like a youth. And if that's the case, you become more of like calm, and like, instead of like a wildcat, you become more of like a controlled kind of predator, basically. But for a lot of you who started out as a lamb, and were raised by these kind of ferocious parents, right? I say ferocious lovingly. Your relationship with your parents was really wonderful and very synergetic, it looks like. But like with this King of Wands, you kind of become the beast, right? You become this unanimous leader, this kind of giver. And with the Emperor, it's interesting. The first thing I thought of when I saw this Emperor is he looks like the guy in Hunger Games that, like his face to me looks like the guy in Hunger Games that is in Hunger Games 2. There's these characters and they nickname him Nuts and Bolts, and what they're like really good with technology and like electricity and stuff, and like in the third movie he like hacks all the computer programming and stuff to like see into the enemy's territory and stuff. Basically, he's like this computer hacker or technology like whiz. And I definitely see you becoming into that realm, basically, where you're like so good with technology, so good with everything that you're working on. And it's interesting because in old age, you wouldn't think that'd be the case because, you know, we see our parents work with technology and we're like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't end up like that. But I'm seeing with you that like, you kind of have this ability to like whatever tools you're given in your adult life in the future, whatever you need to work with to be this boss figure. And the Emperor is also a boss and the King of Wands is a boss. I mean, King of Wands is like this leader figure, right? And the Emperor card is like someone who has their life organized and down together. They're the ruler of their own life. They have kind of a firm grip of control on everything going on in their life. And they know how to hold it. Like this chess piece that he's holding, he's barely holding on to it, but he still has it. He's still holding it. He's not dropping it, you know? And that's the thing is like, you can hold something lightly, you know, but at the same time have firm control over it. And it's kind of this balance of spirituality and practicality that I see in your future. So if you're nervous about maybe you're too spiritual or too practical at this point in your life, or you have those things are out of whack for you, you kind of feel how do I put this? You feel kind of an unbalance with those things. Like maybe sometimes you dwell too much in your spiritual side, and then other times you dwell too much in your practical side, and you're like trying to figure out how to work out the two, you know? I know for me personally, like I struggle with, like we're having like multiple goals at the same time. I can only kind of do one thing at a time. And so like, what I'm seeing here with you is like, you're able to like go back and forth and balance these things almost like with these two fish right here. It's almost like the infinity symbol that you kind of get with the Magician, and you get it with the Strength card, and you also get it with the Two of Pentacles, right? You're able to go back and forth with the activities in your life and balance the spiritual side and this practical side. And at the same time, just like the Magician, you have all the tools and abilities and requirements, like with this Emperor, with the technology, you have all these abilities and you have the resources basically to make your goals possible. I definitely see that here where you're just kind of starting to share your personality with the world and get credibility. This credibility is kind of like what makes these things happen, right? You have the vision, and then you have this credibility, and then right here you have like the action, you have the game plan, you have everything's coming into fruition towards the end of your life, or in the future basically. So it's really cool actually how that all happens. Let's see if I see anything else. I probably should just draw the chakra card. I'll draw the chakra card right now to get the final messages for your future. Okay, I'm gonna take this top one. We have this kind of purple blue stone, and it is the throat chakra. It says vulnerability. Showing vulnerability is a sign of strength. Wow. Yeah, and it's interesting that we got this card, and I'm relating it back to this Strength card with the lamb and the lion and how the lamb's very vulnerable. With the King of Wands, I was mentioning with this lion and the fact that you kind of have this sense of balance with kind of like your more ferocious and like gentle side. You have this balance of spirituality and practicality. It's important, and what the cards are urging you to remember is that in later life, you might get somewhat hardened, with the Emperor here kind of representing like stone and rock and kind of a sturdy foundation. You might get somewhat hardened, and basically the cards are saying that remember to be vulnerable. Remember to kind of like let out your vulnerability every once in a while, because I really feel that like you're going to make some connections in your future by being vulnerable that are going to be irreplaceable for the rest of your life. It's almost like you make the strongest connections in your future. I definitely see that if you meet a spouse, or if you haven't met a significant other yet, this vulnerability, they're going to help you with that vulnerability. They're going to help you like show that vulnerability, at least first with them, and then they'll kind of help you so you're able to show that vulnerability to others. This is what's going to bridge those deep connections, because here where you're showing the world the real you, yes, the people in your life are relating to you because they're seeing that you're a real person, you know, they're seeing that you have like feelings and emotions, and they're seeing that the human side of you, right? Like the parts that like kind of did all the struggling or the walking through fire to get where you were, you know, even though it's like the vision has nothing to do with that. It's just they want to see that you're a person. It's weird how people are, right? They want to see that you've kind of like struggled a little bit to get where you are. Not even struggle is the right word. It's just that they want to see that you have life experience to like back up this vision that you have, right? Like they believe that only people who have somewhat of a life experience can have an idea of where they want to go in life. And that's kind of what's going on here. This vulnerability is a whole other ball game, right? This can apply to your spouse. This can apply to your children if you have children in the future. But these people, these close loved ones, are going to bring out your vulnerable side. And this is what I'm urging you. If you never get married or you never have kids, this would even apply with like nieces and nephews and stuff, or close family members, whoever you're like have closer intimate relationships with. With the vulnerability, this is just urging you to remember to stay in tune with that vulnerability. This vulnerability also can help you attract a mate as well, because this is the side of yourself that they're going to want to see. This is the side of yourself that they really enjoy, and they want to see they want to see this version of you. You don't have to be a strong leader all the time. You know, you don't have to be the tough one all the time. And with balanced spirituality and practicality, you do have both those sides. You do have a wise side and a very practical side in your future. But at the same time, this vulnerability is the key to kind of like maintaining kind of like a happy home in personal life. All right, I think that's about it. I think that covers it for the citrine. I really enjoyed reading for you guys. If you like that reading, feel free to like or comment below. If you want to subscribe to my channel, feel free to do so. We're always welcoming new subscribers here at Cody Tarot. So if you really enjoyed the reading, feel free to do that. And with that said, we're going to move on to group 2 with the Tangerine Quartz. Hello, group 2. This is if you picked the Tangerine Quartz. So, yeah. Let's get into your reading. Your past, present, and future. Okay, so I'm going to draw some Moonology cards to start. Then we're going to draw some Light Seers tarot cards. And also, I'm not going to be taking reversals in this reading, just a heads up for everyone. And then I have some chakra love cards I'm going to be pulling later in the reading once we get things kind of going. I'm going to pull those as we're doing the reading. Okay, so let's flip over your cards. We have the past, the present, and the future. So for your past, we have look at the bigger picture, full moon in Sagittarius. For your present, we have a new start is coming. And for your future, we have bring love into the situation. New moon in Aquarius. And then we're going to get into your tarot cards down below. We have King of Cups upright and 8 of Pentacles upright. And then for weeks, or not weeks, for the present, we have Ace of Cups and Justice. And for the future, we have 9 of Pentacles and the Sun. Future's looking bright so far. Let's see. Okay, let's get into it. So first with your past, we have look at the bigger picture, King of Cups and Eight of Pentacles. I feel like in your past, some significant moments in your past, with the King of Cups, it seems like you were a master of something very early on in your life. Like this could have been anything that you kind of were really, really good at from a really young age. And especially being a king, being the master of something, it's almost like you were born a prodigy of some specific type of thing. Either you were just born an artist, or you were born a musician, or you were a born mathematician. Whatever it is, you had something really, I'm thinking more of something in the artistic realms because it's a cup card. But there's something about you mastering something at a very young age that like you were far surpassing your peers in this specific thing, right? And what I'm seeing here with the Eight of Pentacles, this is almost like how you were raised by your parents or by your caregiver of whatever kind. With the Eight of Pentacles, this shows a practical, slow and steady approach, and kind of an approach that is over time. If you look at those moons transgressing in the, or flying by in the sky, it's showing like the element of time progressing, and she's sitting in front and she kind of has all her tools in front of her. She has her candles, her books, her bowls of food and berries and stuff. Anyway, with this whole mastery component to your personality and the fact that you were so gifted at something at such a young age, it's almost like your parents wanted to capitalize on this. I say capitalize, that sounds like probably like a too harsh of a word because you're not a project, you're a person. But they were really focused on your talents when you were developing. And even like if this wasn't your parents, this could have been later in life, like in school or something, a teacher took an interest in you. Eight of Pentacles can also indicate education. There was someone who took an interest in you when you were very young and helped you develop this talent or ability and helped you kind of learn how to kind of stick to things. It's almost like you had a lot of natural talent in the beginning, and this person, when you were young, helped you focus on the details of the project or the mastery components of the project to really fine-tune that skill or ability that you had. It's interesting, with look at the bigger picture, I'm taking this to mean that you were not looking at the bigger picture and that was what is needed or what was needed in your past. Something about tunnel vision is coming through really strongly, and these cards are kind of disconnected from each other, which is kind of making me think that in your past you had different components of your life that were disconnected from each other and didn't really have quite an influence on the other components. So, for example, maybe your life with your friends was very separate and different from your life with your schoolwork, and that was different than your life with your parents, and maybe your playtime was a little bit different, you know? So you had like different separate areas of your life, and especially with Sagittarius, I know a few Sagittariuses, and all the ones I know had like many different friend groups when they were growing up or in like, you know, in middle school and high school and stuff. They had many different friend groups and they just bounced between those friend groups. And that's kind of looking at the bigger picture in general. I'm definitely seeing that like on each specific task, you definitely had some tunnel vision. So for example, in a weird way, you were the bigger picture because you had your foot in every single pond, but every time you focused on one task, you almost got tunnel vision on that task. And so what I'm seeing here with the Eight of Pentacles, the Eight of Pentacles is someone who's so focused that they can just build pentacle after pentacle after pentacle up this rank, right? This is something that like your concentration couldn't be broken with this moons going across like that. It's almost like you came out really strong with this talent or skill, and then your concentration was just really well developed, especially because this caregiver really paid attention and made sure that you were able to like actively achieve this goal that you set. So there was some talent from when you were really young that like was really prominent in your life. This could be anything from if you were a girl, maybe sometimes, you know, you hear those mothers who have their children in beauty pageants and stuff. Maybe you were really talented at that. Something about precocity, like being very precocious when you were younger, is kind of indicating that you were really good at something. And a lot of people, a lot of adults, maybe not just your parents, but other adults, really took an interest in your talents at a young age. This is kind of a sense of being, you could have been quite popular among adults or people. You possibly were also popular with your peers. I'm not really seeing that too much. Look at the bigger picture, I'm seeing that you kind of had your foot in every pond. So you may have been taking like karate classes, beauty pageants, math club, whatever, video game club, if that's even a thing. But basically you had like a whole bunch of different activities and you were like tunnel vision on all of them. So look at the bigger picture, it's kind of like indicating that your personality in a sense when you were younger was very separate, right? You really had a lot of different separate identities or separate personalities that kind of almost in a way, what we see here in the present almost can get like integrated, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. Basically, look at the bigger picture, it's trying to say that in your past, if you're still confused about your identity or you're still trying to figure out what your life purpose is and stuff, looking at your past and seeing like all the different components and trying to reconcile those and bring them together and getting all of those components into one kind of unified personality is really going to help. Because what we see here is you had a lot of different interests. Definitely seeing that also with the many, many moons, there's something about multiples here. But with King of Cups, there definitely was at least one area you were very, very talented in. And this can also be many areas you were talented in, but for the most part with King of Cups, I see that you came to this earth with some kind of skill already mastered. Another thing too with the King of Cups is what I'm seeing here with the boat in the background. This is just to me seeming like travel. And because there's a lot of water in this King of Cups card, water could have been very important to you growing up or traveling across water, maybe like boating trips with family and stuff was important. But mainly what I'm seeing here is there's an element of like mastery, something that you were really, really good at from a young age, and also having a foot in every pond, right? But not really being able to see the bigger picture with every task that you did. It's almost like with Eight of Pentacles, they can only see the pentacle in front of themselves. So when it comes to like seeing how many pentacles they're making or what are they making the pentacles for, it was like you had this kind of separateness to your activities that you couldn't really see that far ahead into the future, or you couldn't see how the interconnectedness of things was. And I think part of your past was learning how to discover and create that interconnectedness between all of your activities. I think that part of this in your past caused a lot of identity issues and made you kind of think like, man, I don't know who I am. If I'm so good at all these different things, I don't really know what my identity is. Or you had a lot of different identities. Like you may have thought like I'm a really good, karate person, or I'm really good in the beauty pageants, or I'm really good at the math. I know I keep using those random examples, but those are the ones that are coming to my mind. They could be anything though. But because you had those things that you were all very good at, it created a lot of identity confusion in you because you didn't know really what your passion was, what your purpose was, what type of person you were, because you fit in with pretty much everyone. So looking at the bigger picture is kind of realizing that there's not only a bigger picture to your activities that you're doing, there's a bigger picture to your personality. Your identity is more multifaceted than you think it is. And I think at this young age, it would have been very hard to decide that or figure that out. Or even in just realizing that it was difficult to figure out your identity probably in the past. Okay, let's get a chakra love card because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself without getting one of these cards out. Let's see. Ooh, this pink one. Okay. So we have this pink crystal right here. I believe this is going to be rhodonite. Yes, it is rhodonite. It says love. Love is a verb, so make it your most treasured action. Something that I'm seeing that with love here that we didn't cover already is that with loving words or loving actions, I definitely see that was like something that was really important to you in your past. So for example, when someone did something really nice to you or told you they loved you, especially if your parents told you I love you, if you grew up in that kind of family where people were very verbal with their affections, then I definitely see that meant a lot to you. You took it very seriously. And at the same time, it warmed you, like it almost like warmed your heart. It warmed your soul. I definitely see that with love, it says love is a verb, so make your most treasured action. There's something about adults and stuff and everyone kind of praising you. They gave you a lot of love, so you really wanted to give love back to the world. You tried to praise other people, and you tried to build other people up and kind of build up their skills and abilities. So I see that you're also a very humble person. So in your youth, you probably didn't gloat or pronounce or make really a big deal that you were the best. You kind of just had these skills, and you either didn't really focus too much on the fact that other kids had skills or something like that, or basically in your past you really wanted to build other people up and their skills up right along with you. This is also a sign that you probably were a really good team player. And for the most part, I definitely see that through all the cards, your path in life, it looks relatively easier, relatively undaunting. I mean, in the beginning, I can see that identity issue coming up with look at the bigger picture. It's kind of you're spreading yourself too thin, but it's also you have to realize you are part of a bigger whole. Your identity is a bigger part of a bigger picture, right? So it's about bringing all those multifaceted aspects into your core of your being. And I think this kind of unifies it a little bit with love. Basically, loving actions kind of became really important to you, and you really valued them when you were younger because you received that kind of love and you wanted to share that love with others. And that was to you the most important thing because you were really in tune with how love is expressed and received. Okay, let's get into the present. With a new start is coming, Ace of Cups and Justice. This is where things take somewhat of a turn. First of all, let's start with Ace of Cups. With Ace of Cups can be a card about keeping your own cup full and really treasuring it. But in this particular case, I definitely see this love action really develops into a fully empowered heart chakra. And now it's no longer about talents or abilities or things you can do, but it's more about relationships, who you're connecting with. What do people mean to you? What does love represent? Being loving on a deeper and a bigger level. This can be somewhat of a time where more of your inspirational qualities started to shine through, especially with Ace of Cups here. We have a cup that's overflowing. So I feel with this, you turned a lot of your attention in the present onto yourself and self-love and self-care. You may still have these talents and abilities, but I feel they take up less of an importance in your life. It's almost you kind of realize that the attention you were getting was somewhat surface, even though it did mean a lot to you and those loving actions and loving words were important. You realize there's deeper love and you wanted to go deeper into it. This is where your depth is focused on, because right here we have a lot of, in your past, we have a lot of, not superficial, surface kind of things where it's you kind of took a little bit off the top of every little thing and you were kind of good at pretty much everything. So you never really had to go deeply into anything. I mean, besides with this Eight of Pentacles, how those parental figures or teachers or caregivers kind of helped you go deeper into those, kind of guided you to go deeper and practice more. It was almost that kind of depth is not kind of the depth that you're looking for. You really realize that with this love, that kind of became the most important thing. And with Ace of Cups here, you really went in deep. You really went in to the depths of your soul, to the depths of other people's soul, and you wanted these deep, meaningful connections. And what I see here with the Justice card is this is kind of karma, or in a way, the fates turning, the balancing point. Because with Justice, I'm reminded of your shadow side here with this woman underneath the sword and the woman on top of the sword. And I'm reminded that sometimes when we dig really deep, we find some areas of our life that might not be the most pleasant, right? So I definitely see that the only darkness in your life is kind of your own shadows. For the most part, you have a very pleasant, nice, easygoing life, but maybe your own shadows also get in the way. But at the same time, going into the depths of your soul, finding out what the love is that you love, how you love others, and the deeper aspects of love, I see you really starting to analyze love and connections right here. And with a new start is coming, it's in the present moment, you can feel that something's on the horizon. You know that something's just around the corner. There's a big change coming and you can feel it. I definitely see this as more of an intuitive hunch card with the new start is coming. With the new moon, it's you're on the precipice of deciding what you want your life to go, or where you want your life to go, or how you want it to transfer into the next phase of your life, right? And all you know right now is that you really are a student of love and deep relationships and connections and treating people fairly and justly, especially with the Justice card and Ace of Cups together. This is about using your love to treat people fairly and justly. So it's a very different kind of justice that's different than just the legal system, like you broke the law and this is that, or, even with how we view karma, right? Like you do something bad and you get something good, you get something good because something bad happened to you, and vice versa and stuff like that. This is more about like tying in that empathy with all of those actions and with all of those things. So it's slightly different. And you're starting to realize like your karma is directly tied to how much you love and how connected you are to your heart chakra. Let's pull a chakra oracle card just to see what else is in this present. Okay, I'm going to take the top one. We have this light blue color, and we have Larimar, listening. If you want to be heard, learn to listen. That's something that's interesting, because I think that your connection to love and how you appreciate love and how you go deeply into love, the way you do that is through listening to others and letting yourself be an ear for other people to speak to. I definitely see that this could be a time in your life where you're realizing you have some attributes of like a really good therapist. Like people come to you with issues and questions, and people come to you with a wounded heart basically, and you're somehow able to help them and help kind of like take those wounds or those painful experiences and show them what it means basically. First of all, I think you take the step to get them in touch with their heart chakra themselves. Your heart chakra kind of amplifies out and they feel that loving energy around you. That might be another reason why right now in the present, if you're realizing you're getting a lot of connections or friends that feel truly grateful for you, and there's like a loving environment around you, and you're just like, wow, like I'm amazed at how many people are in my life that are just truly appreciate me. This is because you're in tune with your heart chakra, and the more you develop it, the better these connections and these relationships will be. You're kind of it's with the new start is coming, you're kind of just getting into the little bit of the surface of it kind of, but the thing is you're going deeper. That's the thing. It's like going, how do I put this? It's like experiencing everything on a surface level, but then you find this one interest that you're like, wow, I really appreciate this interest. I appreciate love. I appreciate what it can do. I appreciate how it operates between and among humans. And with the Justice card, I appreciate the kind of good vibes and karma it can bring. That's just taking you deeper into studying love. So you might even study relationships. You could study, with the shadow side right here, you could study trauma with different people, because people are going to come to you with broken hearts. And because your heart chakra is glowing, they're going to be attracted to that. With the Justice card here, I hear that you give good advice. You give really good advice to people. And it comes from a heart-centered place, which makes it ethical. And also, most importantly, it aligns other people with their truest desires. It aligns them with their truest self. So no matter what, they feel good in their decisions, feel good in themselves, and you're able to bring out those strong indications of empathy in others for their own life. I think with the listening, you do this a lot through listening and making subtle comments here and there. I can see you basically listening to a person, possibly for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, just like listening to them. And all of a sudden, like after listening for so long, the person starts to kind of like trail off on what they were saying, but then you like kind of bring them back and basically say like, so what you're saying is this, and you're feeling this. And maybe like through that distraction and then that kind of realizing where their heart was at, you're kind of showing them kind of like their deeper self. It's like they kind of get away from it for a second by being distracted. And then all of a sudden you bring them back to it and they're like, whoa. Because coming from it from a different place, when you're, how do I put this? when you're thinking about one issue, right, sometimes we forget that we have this other positive thing going on in our life, right? And with look at the bigger picture, this is an element of that with that you kind of realized as well. Because when you kind of realize that your identity was multiple things, you realize that's kind of how people are. A lot of people have their identities in a lot of different separate areas. So even when you kind of integrated yourself using this one component of love, you kind of realize that bringing people and aligning them with their different identities is kind of another way to heal their heart. Really, this goes in a lot of depth, basically, on like different ways that you could heal people and methods that you could use. And with the new start is coming, I'm definitely seeing you're kind of like learning these skills maybe right now. And you're pretty much deep in it with the love aspect and your heart chakra and kind of developing compassion for others. But right now, it's like you're learning all these skills and abilities on how to help people and help create positive relationships and positive scenarios, and you know how to like heal people's hearts. You're learning how to heal people's hearts. I definitely see that this is something given to you by the universe, by your spirit guides, something that you're kind of like meant to do. It's interesting. You were meant to have all these like this kind of connections and this praise and accomplishments as far as like your younger self, and then in the present you're realizing love is kind of more important than a lot of that stuff. You know, it's a deeper goal, it's a deeper thing, and it's all because you get more in touch with your shadow side. So the more in touch with your shadows you get, the more you realize, the more you go deeper into that, the more you realize how love is important. And I'm definitely seeing in your present you've got a lot of that going on. Definitely the makings of an excellent therapist. If you ever wanted to get into therapy or like help people through listening to their problems and giving them advice in different points, if you're not into traditional therapy, any kind of healing thing like Reiki or anywhere where you can take your heart-centered energy and kind of align it with other people's and help like them line up to their highest purpose, right? With Justice card, you could also help them process karma, like bad karma in their life, or process things that they've done that maybe they're not that proud of, and then they have to kind of transmute that through a loving energy and kind of bringing them into the light, basically. Okay, interesting. So now we're moving into the future. It's funny, we have bring love into the situation. And I guess I forgot that card said that, but it's interesting. So I think this passes forward into your future. With the new start is coming, it's like you're learning the beginnings of this. And then with bring love into the situation, it's almost like you're learning to bring love into every aspect of your life. So you might have just used this occasionally with friends or with people or with certain situations with specific other people who maybe have problems or something. But in the future, I think in the future self, you kind of bring love into every aspect of your life. You not only bring love into specific situations to heal people, but you bring love into situations to kind of heal objects and like even like tasks such as like managing your finances. You bring a loving energy into that. This is the type of group that has such a powerful heart chakra. You're a powerful healer. Mother Teresa is coming to mind, someone who's very like saint-like and who has kind of like a golden aura that people are just drawn to. Let's see, with Nine of Pentacles, it's interesting. I'm definitely seeing in your future, whether you meet a mate in your present or not, or you have a relationship in your present, in your future, I definitely see a sense of independence from others. And it's interesting because I think this comes from your childhood, basically being so connected to other people and having people constantly commenting on your talents and abilities since you were very young, and kind of like recognizing those and pushing you and stuff. I think that in the future, you kind of are looking for some alone time and you kind of go deeper into self-love, and you're still loving with your environment, but I see it as more with the Nine of Pentacles specifically with like practical tasks. It's funny I mentioned managing your finances because Pentacles can deal with money. But bringing love into like little nurturing areas of your life. Like this woman has a garden and there's an animal there. So there's not too many other people in this card. So there's an aspect that you might try to go into yourself or into your own soul and kind of experience your own being. It's almost like you realize that like, not only can you amplify other people's heart energy by like connecting with them, but like basically being your own heart-centered energy, you kind of create like a positivity and a joy for yourself that it's almost like realizing that it doesn't matter how many hearts you touch or how many people you affect. as long as like you're happy. It's like knowing that you're making yourself happy and you have a loving energy from within, like the rest of the world will follow. The rest of the world will fall in line. And I'm definitely seeing something about with Nine of Pentacles, there is an aspect that you could be very wealthy in the future. Like that a lot of these things, a lot of these projects and bringing love into every situation of your life actually creates a lot of abundance and wealth for you. With the Sun card here, this is like just the further, and especially because it's the furthest onto the side, the furthest future. When you were very old, when you were, you know, in your 80s or whatever, you know, when you're a very old person and you've come to the end of life, you're going to look back with such joy and gratitude and such positivity. I definitely see with the Sun card over here, it's like there's pure light. It's all like these shadows that you go down the depth of seeing the shadows and going in deeper into your heart chakra. They're fully illuminated now. It's almost like the shadows no longer exist and you've transmuted them into pure light. This is something that in the end of your life, you could feel like you've become enlightened or you've achieved some kind of spiritual understanding. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing something very positive. With the Sun card, the traditional Sun card has a child, so this could be a time in your future where you have children or you're dealing with children. Possibly with this Sun card, you could really be bringing this pure sense of joy to some grandchildren or children that are, you know, nieces or nephews of like brothers or sisters or something like that. But at the same time, I'm definitely seeing that like you're bringing this joy and this energy back into the younger generation. Yeah, let's see what else. Let's see what the chakra love cards say for you for this for the future. Okay, let's see, chakra love card for the future. Okay, the one on the top is this color, this crystal. I think it's turquoise. Yeah, it's turquoise. Truth, speak from your heart. It is the only thing worth listening to. Wow, and I think this is interesting because not only do you help people get in line with their heart chakra here, but with the throat chakra here, speak from your heart is the only thing worth listening to. I definitely think that you learn to speak words of love at this point. And it's interesting, love is a verb, so make it your most treasured action, and listening and then speaking from your heart. It's almost like here you learn the skills of listening, right? And the way of like listening to people to heal them and kind of absorbing kind of their, not their trauma, that's not the right thing. Absorbing their emotional cathartic release that they're experiencing in their bodies and absorbing it and then letting your heart kind of like amplify it back to them in a positive way. With the end situation, with the future, you're more focused on speaking loving words. So there could be an element, something coming up with writing is like important here because there's an independent sense to this end goal. And so even though you're using your throat chakra, there's something about writing. You might actually write a book in your future about your experiences and your journey through love, or you might write or you might teach a course on love or teach a course on spirituality or enlightenment or something like that. There's something that even if it's not about love specifically, I'm definitely saying that whatever kind of fact that you brought love into here, because it could be a talent from here that you're teaching and you're just bringing love into the situation, or it could be the kind of becoming and how your personal journey and how your evolution as your personality developed, and kind of writing a book on that. There's many things that because you've had a very like rich life basically, or you will have had a rich life by the future. And it's interesting because you're going to find some way to connect that life to others. And so speaking the truth, and I'm seeing writing because I'm definitely sensing some independence where you keep that love to yourself, but it's like when you do speak, it's like with pure loving words. Let's see, I think that's about it. Let me see if I can see anything else. Yeah, there's something coming through right here with the Sun card and truth. You actually, it's interesting, when you speak love, you speak joy into the beings of others. So where this area where it was more like your heart was glowing and they resonate and they are healed, like a healing thing, this is more a sense of joy and optimism and positivity. It's almost like you might actually become someone who makes really good jokes, or you might become someone who makes really good like humorous situations or funny situations, because with the Sun card, with the optimism and positivity, and also with the children being affected. I definitely see you having an aspect with younger people or people younger than you, being able to speak to them and really getting on their level and getting them to laugh and enjoy themselves. You really infect others with joy by this point in your life. You become kind of like the wise old sage, but like I'm like seeing something like the Buddha, like kind of like a happy, very happy person that kind of infects others with joy and kind of creates joy around them. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. All right, well, I really enjoy reading for you guys. You guys have a really wonderful life and a lot of you're going to develop a lot of really amazing talents. Yeah. There's something in the present where you're developing these things right now that you might have an interest in psychology or learning how to be a better therapist. If you already have a profession, say you already decided on a profession from one of these younger talents and you're kind of entrenched in that, this could just be like a hobby, but I'm definitely saying that this love thing takes over as a main focus in your life. Yeah. Anyway, I got to stop reading for you guys because I could go on and on. Anyway, if you like that reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like the reading, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this once every 1 to 2 weeks. With that said, we're going to move on to the third group with the clear quartz. Hey, group 3, this is if you picked the clear quartz right here. So, pretty cool. All the other quartz have color, and this one's clear. Maybe you're a very clear thinker. Anyway, so let's see. So I'm going to shuffle these Moonology cards and get some cards for your spread, past, present, and future of your life. And we're going to pull some Light Seers tarot cards. Also, I'm not taking reversals, just so you guys aren't confused if you see me flipping those over. Okay, and then I have some chakra love cards I'm going to pull throughout the reading after I've done reading most of the majority of the messages. So let's get into your cards. For your past, we have Don't Let Pride Get in Your Way. For your present, we have A New Romantic Cycle Begins. And with our last card, we have Nothing Is Yet Set in Stone. So for your past, we have Ace of Cups and Nine of Pentacles. It's interesting, the last group got both of these in their present and future. And for the midpoint, we have the Magician and Seven of Wands. And then for the future, we have Five of Swords and Six of Wands. Okay, so first and foremost, the past. We're going to start with the past. So don't let pride get in your way. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I'm going to start with these two tarot cards here. So one thing when you were younger, something that you felt... The thing is, when you were younger, with the Ace of Cups, you had a very strong and developed heart chakra. So you were very generous and caring. It's interesting. The very last group developed their heart chakra and realized that throughout life. This group, I feel, you kind of were born with it. You kind of were born connected to your heart chakra and your heart center, and you were very loving and kind. With Nine of Pentacles, it's interesting. I can see here that with Nine of Pentacles, you were very isolated or independent or wanted to be alone, but at the same time would feel free sharing the good life with others. So for example, it's almost as if whatever you were given by your family, you felt like you had enough. Like you felt like you had a bountiful childhood, with a lot of like amazing kind of, you could have had a lot of resources growing up, or a lot of opportunities to like have different things in your life. Basically, you had a lot. And basically, when other people, you saw that they didn't have anything, you would freely give away your stuff to them. In your past, you would really be open and giving with those people. With don't let pride get in your way, I'm definitely seeing that there is an element that you had somewhat of an ego in your past. This is not to say that you were like destructive with it or anything, because what we see here is you did have a very loving, heart-centered energy. And it's very difficult to be destructive or hurt others from this place of, care and stuff. But with the Nine of Pentacles and don't let pride get in your way, I'm sensing sort of an aloof attitude, like you were a little separate from others, kind of kept to yourself. Maybe because with don't let pride get in your way, I'm definitely seeing that there's something about not wanting to blend in with the group, kind of keeping to yourself to the point where you're like, I'm, better than these other people. This could be something along the lines of like just not connecting with others right off the bat. Maybe even you wanted to connect with others, but you just couldn't. And so basically with don't let pride get in your way, there was just this element of kind of separateness, of basically being like, I'm kind of better than the people around me. I'm better than these people. I definitely think with the past being like this, it comes more from a place of not being able to connect and not truly understanding those around you. And definitely with the independence thing, just already being a very independently minded child, or being an independently minded person. I mean, this could continue up until, your 20s or 30s. Basically being separate from people and maybe struggling to connect, but also thinking kind of in the back of your mind, like, okay, like, who dropped me off on this earth with the rest of the, with the freak show, kind of like, why is this a circus? Like I'm a sane person, I'm a giving, loving, caring person, and I'm just dropped off with all these people. Honestly, a lot of these people that in your childhood, you might have seen a lot of people as selfish. You may have seen a lot of people, some even people as bullies, or people as unkind. I mean, I feel like your generous nature in the very beginning of your life was not received that well, and it created this aloof attitude where you basically didn't really want to get involved with others on that level, I see that for some of you, there's a few people that you kind of let into your inner sanctum and you were very generous with them. And eventually this turned into being generous with specific people who you felt were worthy of your generosity. But with don't let pride get in your way, this is just saying that you were learning at this level to kind of balance this out, because I feel like it's almost like sometimes it would have been like a struggle to kind of like connect with people because of your pride. And maybe when you were younger, and maybe even like in the recent past, you were learning that this pride kind of gets in the way of your connection with others, because you're so self-focused. And that's not a bad thing. It's almost like the thing is, it is a good thing in this case, because kind of like, this is one of those things where everything happens for a reason, right? Your generous nature needed to be protected and shared with only a few others, because that's the way it's going to trickle out into your environment. You can't just open up your heart full-fledged to someone who's a lion, right? And just have it just be ripped out of your chest, like this is someone who, with group 3, this is kind of like you had to take it slowly. You had to take it's slow with people. And the reason you had pride or an ego, or you were separate from others, is because nobody was as caring as you. Nobody was as heart-centered or heart-focused as you were, and so you quickly realized you had to keep to yourself and share with only those people who you could let into your inner sanctum. So don't let pride get in your way. In a way, it's kind of like, this card is kind of like advice, right? If someone was going to come up to you and tell you some advice, they'd say, don't let pride get in your way. But the thing is, I think there's this like double nature to this card, where on one hand you were very prideful, right? But you realized that was a weakness. You realized that was part of you, that was a defense mechanism. And it's interesting how you realize this so early on. I think it takes a highly developed soul to realize this type of thing early on in life, because a lot of people with their pride, get into a position where they don't recognize that pride and they kind of let it run and rule their life, right? Pride can be a thing of like the ego, right? And so this is kind of one of those things where you realize that on one hand, you have to be separate, right? And that you do have this sense of pride that's growing because you're separate, but because it's almost like you're very self-aware, there is an element here where you realize you can't be prideful all the time. You can't have that attitude all the time. And so one thing that's really clear is that you did open up and you did share with people. You were generous with people who were close to you. I want to kind of pull a chakra love card right now for this section because I'm curious to see what else the cards have to say because I feel like I'm missing something. So hopefully this gives me some answers to what I'm missing. Cool, we have two cards that came out. So we have these two. We have those are the cards. One is all the crystals and this one's just the purple crystal. So I'll read this one first. It says, expression, express your true self, the world needs you. Put that up there. And then we have out of chaos comes creation. And this just shows a couple of crystals. So these might be crystals that could help you. Right now, if you're still dealing with some issues from the past, we have Amazonite, Carnelian, Peach Moonstone, and Red Jasper. Interesting. But let's read the top, and it says chakra balance. That's an interesting thing. It says chakra balance and cycles. So the thing is, you may have gone through different cycles where you kind of had to be prideful in some parts of your life, and then other parts of your life you could let down that guard, let down your guard, and kind of be as tender as a pussycat or as ferocious as a lion, depending on the situation and what you kind of needed to become, basically. With expression, express your true self, the world needs you. This is really important, and this kind of was the building blocks for your future. I definitely see that opening up with who you really are and who you really feel that you are on the inside versus who you are on the outside really helped you in this situation. I see that expression, not just expressing your true self, the world needs you, but just expression in general, coming out, expressing yourself, getting expressive, because with this pride, I see this is kind of getting bottled up, you know? You're blocking yourself off from others and your heart chakra is still strong, right? It's just that you're being more selective with using it, you know? So usually when people say you have a strong heart chakra, it just represents that you can connect with all different kinds of people. It's kind of like a universal love. But for you, I'm seeing that it was somewhat strong. It just turned kind of on and off depending on who you were around. With expression, I definitely see that with the right types of people, you were able to let loose and express yourself and be free in that expression. And that was what really kind of like tied you to others in a loving way, you know? And because you expressed your true self, that's kind of how you change the world, basically. It's how you kind of let down your pride and really get in the soup with everyone else. The crystal is lapis lazuli. And this crystal, lapis lazuli, has a lot of different minerals in it. So you might have been a very multifaceted person growing up as well. Okay, so we're going to get into the present now. And we have a new romantic cycle begins, the Magician and the Seven of Wands. So it's interesting. We have some things in the present that are quite fascinating. This is a time in your life in the present, and you may have already realized this, where since there's a scale here, there's two sides to this scale. There's two sides to this equation. And with the Magician here, there's an infinity symbol in his hood. Let me see if I can show you that. There's an infinity symbol in his hood right there. And this just represents the back and forth of this kind of energy. But a new romantic cycle begins means that you have suitors. Like, this is a time where a lot of people like you, a lot of people are into you, or you are into a lot of people. So you might find yourself really attracted to a lot of different people, and you might find a lot of other people are really attracted to you. So this is kind of the present of your life. If this hasn't happened already, it's going to happen. But you're probably you probably would be aware of this by the pure fact that you're probably just very driven to be intimate with lots of different people, right? So with the new romantic cycle begins, there's just this element that there is a sense of balance, or things are balancing out, right? So if you're nervous at this point, or you're worried that you haven't met someone or you haven't found the right person, maybe you're attracted to a lot of people, but they're not attracted back to you. And maybe there's a lot of people attracted to you, but you're not attracted to them. That's because everything is balancing out, right? It's like a burst. It's like a flood, right? Through this expression that you released, and also with the Magician, you're getting in touch with your manifestation abilities, your spiritual side. And my air conditioner just went off, and I take that as a sign, right? The silence is a sign. So the Magician, interestingly enough, you're getting in tune with your spiritual side in this present moment, and it's really creating a lot of people attracted to you, and you attracted to a lot of other people. And it's kind of creating this synergy of back and forth. Now, I definitely will tell you this. Slowly but surely, you will start being more and more attracted to the people who are attracted to you, and vice versa. Slowly and surely, people who are attracted to you that you're not attracted to will slowly stop being attracted to you. It's all through this process of growth and evolution. What I see here with the Seven of Wands, this is saying that you're protected. No matter how many suitors are after you, I definitely see, someone who is being like, if you are a woman, then you're being chased by a lot of men. A lot of men are after your attention. You're very popular. You're very attractive. I definitely see something like that. If you are a man, the women are all chasing you, basically. But at the same time, you're chasing people, but those people aren't really into you. It's kind of a weird topsy-turvy world right now. The scales are not really fully balanced, but they are balancing. Libra's all about balancing those scales. So with the Seven of Wands, this is just saying you're protected from outside influences. You can think of these sticks as all people trying to get at this woman, and she's just protected. She's like, nope, I've got my will. I'm strong. I'm waiting for what I want. With the Magician card, that's really important because it looks as if you have a clear idea of the type of person you want to be with. It's just a matter of waiting for that person to come into your life. So a new romantic cycle begins just means that right now, passions are flying. There's people into you, you're into people. It's just not really reciprocated right at this time. You might have a few crushes that are kind of annoyingly all about you right now. And you're kind of don't really like their energy, or you're not really about them. Or you might have some people who, and the thing is, as this starts to balance out, a few of these people that are going to start becoming into you and stuff, or starting to be attracted to you, are going to be people that you're slightly more attracted to, right? The universe is kind of balancing out this attraction of opposites until that final relationship comes into play where they're attracted to you as equally as you're attracted to them. So think of that kind of I don't know if you've ever taken a water bottle or something, or some kind of container with water, and you've sloshed it back and forth, and you've watched the water slosh into the different sides of the bottle. And then basically if you go back and forth enough times and you put it standstill, it's like sloshing back and forth like that, but eventually it levels out into an even field. That's kind of what's happening right now. It's kind of like with this Magician, right? And he's kind of with that stirring of the pot, right? With this kind of whirlpool down here. You're kind of as you manifest things, you're kind of shaking things up. The universe kind of has to reorder itself in order to figure out how to send you that right person, right? The one that you want, right? So as far as you're getting into your spiritual gifts and your spiritual abilities, and the thing is, you're also evolving. Evolving is a really key point here as well. I'm not seeing that in the cards, but it's just what's happening in this situation. The fact that you're evolving and you're becoming a new person, a different person, you're shedding those parts of yourselves that are attracting those people that you don't want to attract. And vice versa, the people who are attracted to you are kind of, it's interesting. You're just kind of evolving in the right direction to meet the type of person that you're meant to be with, the type of person that you're manifesting, that you're trying to be with. So this romantic cycle is just indicating the kind of chaos of love that's happening in your life right now. It seems like it's all over the place. Some people are going to be attracted to you that are, not what you're looking for. And then other people you're super attracted to, and you're not really, they're not really reciprocating your love back. But it's all because there's a lot of self-understanding that has to develop and go into this. And basically, when you kind of understand yourself and where you're coming from, like I said, you're very multifaceted, but trying to find and align with your true path and your true purpose with this Magician and aligning with source energy, that's what's really going to attract a person to you, because you're changing how you're emitting your vibrations. So it changes who's attracted to you, right? And at the same time, because you're changing, it changes who you like and who you're attracted to as well. Let's pull a chakra love card. This one does not want to go back in. I'm going to pull this one. And this one, I believe, is turquoise. Another group got this one. And it says, truth, speak from your heart. It is the only thing worth listening to. So this is really focusing back on this expression card. With truth, this is turquoise, right? This is all about speaking the truth from your heart. So for example, when you're manifesting things, make sure what you're manifesting is what your heart truly wants. Try not to get too heady about this, like too much in your head, too much in your cerebral areas, right? Focus down into your heart center, like what you were born with, right? You were born with this heart center, this generous area, this generous center, right? And now it's like things are happening in your life, especially with this spiritual evolution, this spirituality that you're developing with this magician card, having all the tools to work with this stuff. It is really protecting your heart and kind of letting you interact with the world. This is kind of the time, this happened in group 1, 2. This is kind of the time where you're learning to interact with people, learning to interact with your environment and how you're kind of, the types of people you're bringing into your life, basically. So truth, speak from your heart. It is the only thing worth listening to. That is the best way for you to manifest, is to speak from your heart. What does your heart want? What does your heart feel it needs? You have enough experiences in this lifetime to know what is working for you and what is not working for you. So be really honest with yourself. What do you like in others? What is something that you are attracted to that is not something that's going to cause you pain or cause you hurt or make you feel prideful or make you seize up or tense up, right? We want someone who's open, where you can be expressive with. So this is really key here, because this is bringing in that manifestation of that specific partner that you're going to really deeply connect with. And remember, you are protected, like with the pride thing and being in kind of like tensing up. Right now, it's like you don't have to tense up because now your spiritual team is protecting you. So you kind of can just be peaceful and like relaxed and kind of just in ways turn the other cheek and just make sure you represent yourself as not interested to the right people who you're not interested in. Basically, listening to that heart, being in tune with your own desires is going to be really important here. But yeah, your spiritual team is protecting you right now. So it's like you don't have to use as much pride to get in your way, because you're being protected by the universe now, because you're getting in touch with your spirituality. I mean, the universe was always here. The thing is, it's like, this is kind of the lesson. It's kind of like you're meant to learn and discover your spirituality at this point in your life, in the middle, in this present moment that you're going through right now, because this is kind of the moment that you're learning that you kind of had to experience this past in order to see what your life was like without spirituality, and then what your life is like with a more spiritually tuned in nature. It's interesting. At the very end, we have nothing is yet set in stone, 5 of Swords and 6 of Wands. I'm going to start with 5 of Swords here and the 6 of Wands and show you some imagery. First of all, we have this guy with a crow on his shoulder, and he seems to be having a headache, or he's a little like distraught, I guess. Anyway, this crow's flying over here, indicating a journey, and we end with this guy who is kind of like fully expressing himself with his arms out. And if you notice, this woman is very, very similar to this card, with him and his arms out, and he's flying and he's ready for victory to take off. She's also out here ready to take off. And it's interesting. With the 5 of Swords, this is indicating like an internal battlefield of like your mind, and kind of battling the demons of your mind to kind of achieve this success and recognition and almost like popularity. It's almost like your mind starts to transmute into your everyday life. With the Magician here, and kind of focusing on manifesting that right relationship. You might find the right relationship, but the thing is in the future, it's not talking about the relationship in the future. It's talking about the fact that like with this 5 of Swords, there's a lot of like mental anguish, basically, that like leads you down your path, right? So you might have like a headache or something indicating like a painful moment, and it indicates where you need to go next. So because you're having this painful moment, it's like, okay, I had this painful moment. I know I don't want to go in that direction. I need to go in this direction. But even the painful moments are going to help you achieve this success and recognition at the end of your life. You might actually be quite popular by the end of your life, have a lot of success, a lot of like followers or fans or something like that. But it's interesting. It's kind of like this popularity and stuff is going to kind of like, it's all based on how you take your path and your journey. So if you are following your pain, it's going to be different than if you follow your success. You see, these guys are on polar opposite sides of the card, right? This guy is in pain over here, and we're seeing him in the forefront versus this guy over here who's in victory. It's kind of like it could go either way. And this is the interesting thing, because some people's futures are with this group specifically, especially with the Magician card right here in your spirituality, and kind of the Magician's about taking control of your spirituality, right? It's about casting spells, which is making the universe work to your will, basically. With nothing is yet set in stone, this is all about like free will and free choice. With nothing is yet set in stone, it's like you choose your future. You choose if you're going to follow a path of pain and frustration, or you choose if you're going to follow the path of victory and success. I'm seeing here that with the birds right in here, showing this guy the way, you will always have a spirit guide come to you in moments of pain, or you will always have the universe. With this crow here, he's like a helper. He's coming here to you in the spirit of pain, and he's always going to take you over to the victorious side. He's always going to take you to the successful side if you let him. If you follow the signs and if you don't focus too much on your frustrations, you will fall into success. You will kind of fall into success. And you learn this as you get older. It's almost like with your spirituality, you kind of get this little burst of energy where you kind of can manifest whatever you want, and you kind of pick, romance, I guess, is your vehicle to manifest things. But then in the future, you kind of, in order to achieve success and recognition and popularity and victory, it's a matter of kind of not following the painful points and following the more happy points, basically. Nothing is yet set in stone means it could go in either direction. I'm going to pull a chakra love card and see what else is, what we get for this future. If there's anything else we need to know. And I got this card, which I don't know what crystal that is. Let's see what it is. Blue lace agate. Okay, that's what I thought. Divinity. Recognize the divine in the mirror. Interesting. Yeah, so this is kind of like looking at the reflections of what's going on in your inner mind compared to what's going on outside yourself. So if you're having like painful moments in your head or headaches or fantasies that are like turning darker or more frustrating, it's a time to like see how the reality is affecting that and how you're in your reality affecting that. Something about your mind and breaking through the confines of your mind is really going to help you in this situation achieve success. This is also the crown chakra, and specifically when it's talking about the divine, it's meaning that it's listening to what I mentioned with this crow kind of leading the way and showing you the way. This is kind of represented as like a spirit guide or an angel. The universe is going to be guiding you, especially in your later life, towards the things that you need to do to achieve the accomplishments you need to accomplish. So recognizing the divine in the mirror is literally looking at kind of like how your own personality, your own soul is a reflection of that divine nature. Yeah, you're definitely an interesting blend of like fate and free will at the end of your life. Definitely free will is like a key component here and needs to be emphasized because it's all about following the path of like least resistance, essentially. Because these painful points are like messages from the universe, but at the same time, it is your choice. Do you follow pain? Do you follow suffering? Or do you follow joy? Do you follow happiness? Do you follow positivity? It's all up to you. And nothing is yet set in stone means that things can change. Things can develop in many different ways, basically. And it's up to you to follow your heart right over here, to follow your true north, basically, and to follow where you need to go. With the crown chakra, I definitely see you becoming way more spiritual in your later life. If you feel like you're a spiritual person now, you're going to tap into a lot more spirituality when you're older. Tapping into more higher dimensions, tapping into like further future understanding of things. With the crown chakra, this is the highest evolution of the chakras. So imagine yourself fully evolved in the spiritual department and looking back on life kind of with a sense of like recognition, understanding. You can understand all the components. You understand why things had to happen, why this had to happen, why this is going. You understand the components. You've realized the formula. You know how to... The thing is, you have the choice to either follow the pain or follow follow the joy. It's all about a matter of choice. Like, what side do you align with? You know, do you align with the side of domination with the Five of Swords, or do you align with the side of success and recognition with the Six of Wands? You know, it's interesting because the Five of Swords, because it's a 5 and this turns into a 6, can lead you to the Six of Wands. So you kind of may run into some pain points along the way, and I would not get frustrated about that. If you run into something that's painful, don't get frustrated about that. It's just an indication that you need to move into a different direction if you're going to choose success. If you're choosing more of the dominating route and you're focused on like kind of cramming things down the situation, kind of like forcing things basically, then it might not, you might deal with more pain and suffering as you go through life basically. Yeah, nothing is yet set in stone is really important here, because it could be anything. Like the life you lead could lead anywhere. It could lead to one of these two options. There really is a choice here. All right, with that said, that was your reading, group number 3. If you like that reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like this reading, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I post pick-a cards like this once every 1 to 2 weeks. With that said, we are going to move on to the 4th group. Oh, I forgot to mention, I really enjoyed reading for you. And we're going to move on to the 4th group with the Smokey Quartz. Hey, group 4, this is if you picked the Smokey Quartz. So here will be your reading of your past, present, and future of your life. So we're going to draw some Moonology cards first. And then we've got our tarot cards. Okay, wow. We have a few things flipping upright. We have and we need 2 more. We have 1. Wow, the cards really want to flip out for this pile. There's kind of like, I want to say your spirit guide's with us today. Yeah. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, all your tarot cards flipped upright. So your journey through the tarot cards might be more significant than your journey through these Moonology cards. But let's flip over the Moonology cards and we'll get into your reading. So we have Believe in the Impossible for your past, Blue Moon. Your dreams need a practical plan, present. And then your future is Don't Let Pride Get in the Way. The last group got this in the beginning of their reading. All right, let's get into your reading. So, okay, with your past, we have Believe in the Impossible, 3 of Swords, and 10 of Wands. Something that's coming through is that your past or your previous life has been really hard, really like a struggle, like a tough time. With 10 of Wands, this can indicate a lot of work. With this woman moving, you may have moved situations. You may have kind of like had to travel from one place to the next, and it was really a struggle. You may have had to cut ties with friends from your previous life to move somewhere where you didn't really want to move. You kind of were uprooted and kind of like cut the cord of this 3 of Swords energy with this woman, and kind of like the heart right there. You kind of had to cut that cord and cut those ties with some friends from a previous situation. So a lot of these people in this group, possibly for most of you, you moved from somewhere when you were really young and it kind of uprooted you. And because you were uprooted at such a young age, it was really difficult for you and it caused a lot of hardship. With the 3 of Swords, we have a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of trauma. It's almost like when you started life, you were like either deeply afraid or deeply in pain from kind of like your connections. And with 10 of Wands, you had to do a lot of work around the house, around school. Life was really a struggle for you right off the bat. It was very difficult for you to accomplish like the most everyday tasks. I think for some of you, you are put into a situation where you had to follow a routine, or you had to follow a procedure or something like that. And because you had to follow this specific plan, it was like, felt like a lot of work, a lot of burdens, a lot of people put their lives and responsibilities on you. This could be something along the lines of your parents. If you did not have a tough childhood, I would say that you picked the wrong pile. You're probably one of the other piles. I mean, there were a few other piles that had really wonderful childhoods. Or really wonderful past, basically, and how they grew up. But basically for you, I'm definitely seeing that like you were thrown a lot of work onto your shoulders at a really young time in your life. People thought you were kind of mature when you weren't mature. Like, not mature, that's the wrong word, because you probably were mature. It's just people thought you were more ready for responsibilities back when you were younger than you really were, and overloaded you with a lot of stuff that you really had to like be vigilant and had to do. Basically, with your past, you've just really been doing a lot with like the responsibilities you've been given, and you've kind of had to like leave some friends behind in order to compete with all this hard work and this tough environment. The thing with this lifetime, and the cool thing is with Believe in the Impossible Blue Moons actually only come around, I think they're like, there's one every year, right? Because there's 13 full moons in the year or something like that, or I don't know. But blue moons are very rare, right? I know that. Blue moons are very rare. And with Believe in the Impossible, it means that every once in a while, you got a glimpse into a better life, right? A better life that, you know, was something different or something exciting or something where you could achieve more, you know? And so in your past, even though you struggled and had a lot of hardship, a lot of struggle, I just said that. If you had a lot of struggle in your past, there were these moments, right? And you may have even looked at the moon or looked at the stars or looked in somewhere into nature, right? And realized like there are moments of happiness in all this struggle, all this chaos, all this confusion, all this torment, basically, that you had to go through. I feel for this pile because you went through a lot of suffering in your younger years. Not to be so... I'm not going to like be triggering or anything or like bring anything up because I'm not saying anything specifically. I'm just saying mainly that people put a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders when you were too young to handle it. And there was a lot of sorrow and kind of pain in your youth. But this Believe in the Impossible, you kind of had a bit of the dreamer to you, where every once in a while you had this kind of like aspect where you believed that something better was out there, that there was something better, right? You had little moments where you're like, even though you suffered a lot, you still had hope. You had these moments of hope. And that was really important in your past because it leads to a positive and more bright future. But let me get a Chakra Love Oracle card, or Chakra Love card, to see what, if there's anything else we need to know. Okay, and we have this lovely crystal, which says, it's the crown chakra. It says oneness. You are part of the universe and always will be. Rutilated quartz. This is really important. I think that a lot of this hardship, a lot of this struggle, a lot of this responsibility that you were given when you were too young to handle it, I'm sorry, I'm a little bitter towards whoever hurt you. You know, I'm like, okay, you need to back off my group number 4. Like, you know, I'm feeling protective. Anyway, so with this oneness, you realize with these brief moments of kind of like believing in the impossible that you kind of got a glimpse into the connections of the universe. It's always like there was something better. You always knew there was something better, that you were going to crawl out of your horrible circumstances and achieve something better. And because of these small glimpses, it gave you this sense of knowing. The crown chakra is a sense of knowing. I recently watched a reader and they mentioned the crown chakra as like a sense of claircognizance, and it's so true. It's like information coming to you without you having even realize it. It's like just coming to you. So you got this information basically saying your life gets better, the struggles get better, the struggles get easier. Believing in the impossible, like connecting to that divine aspect, you had to learn really young in life, really when you were a child almost, or maybe even a teenager. You kind of had to develop your spiritual side a little bit early. And with oneness, you realized You are a part of everything. And even though there's a lot of struggles, or even though you started life with a lot of struggles, you were getting that glimpse into the oneness of everything. I'm definitely sensing a lot of nature here, where if you like really connected with nature or with some specific thing that you like really deeply connected with, there was little glimpses of these things that you really deeply connected with. And it created this sense of oneness with you and the thing. And it made you feel kind of like, how do I put this? Blissful, like ecstatic, like there's something better, there's some happiness there, because there was so much suffering, there's so much pain in your early life. Yeah, hopefully, I mean, for some of you, I'm over exaggerating this a little bit. Some of you didn't have that much pain, but for a lot of you, there was a good amount of suffering in the early part of your life. Anyway, let's get into this middle section. Let's get into the present, where you're at now. Enough about that, enough about all that pain. So it's interesting how these cards are like little advices for these cards. Like I mentioned, the tarot cards are more the amount of like what kind of happened, I think. I think that's why they flipped up, right? But let's just continue the reading. So with Queen of Cups, you learned, there are moments where you learn to take a hands-off approach, right? With the Eight of Wands, this is also learning, this is you kind of learning that you can work in fast-paced environments, right? All this pressure, what all this pressure does to a person, it kind of turns a person into a diamond, right? It's like when coal's under pressure and it turns into a diamond. So you kind of emerge as this Queen of Cups, right? This connection with the universe, this slight connection with the universe, gave you a little boost in your intuition. And Queen of Cups is all about ebbing and flowing, specifically with the emotions, with ups and downs. So it's almost like you know that there are ups and downs in the life path. There are ups and downs in your life. Yes, your previous life was more lows than highs, but you're realizing that life goes up and down. There are highs and lows in life. And you're also realizing that with your sense of motivation, there's also highs and lows. With Eight of Wands here, I'm definitely seeing that there is an element of fast-paced action-oriented aspects to you. Like there's an element where you want to be involved in some kind of fast-paced, active environment. And you kind of realize this when you got into this, it's kind of like this sense of risk-taking, I guess you could say. But at the same time, with keeping in touch with kind of like your heart or your intuitive nature. I definitely see you as kind of more of a forceful person at this point in your life, kind of more, dominant, I guess is the best way to say it. Like I can see you kind of more focused on not controlling other people, that's the wrong word, because I don't see you doing it maliciously. I feel like you have great empathy, especially with this Queen of Cups. I feel like you have great empathy for anyone suffering, anyone struggling in a situation, but you're learning to take more control of your life. Sorry, group 4. Sorry about that interruption. My phone shut off. My phone does that every once in a while. I film these picket cards on my phone shut off, and so I had to like pause the reading. I just went to go get some coffee or some water. But anyway, so let's get back in. Okay, where did I leave off? Okay, so with Eight of Wands, I think I was talking about the fast-paced environment, and then I was talking about your empathy. Yeah, with the Eight of Wands being the fast-paced environment, it seems that you kind of want kind of an active, fast-paced environment to like work within. It's almost like you're ready to achieve kind of like some kind of like accomplishment or something, that you're like ready to put yourself in a certain environment to like, it's almost like you have a lot of energy at this point in your life. And with this Queen of Cups, it's almost like you have this kind of like, you're setting up kind of like a sense of boundaries. So it's like when I was talking about with the control earlier, it's not so much that you're controlling your environment, it's that you are setting up specific boundaries with people around you. Well, at the same time with the Queen of Cups, this is just implying that you're taking a more hands-off approach to what the universe throws at you, going and flowing with those ups and downs, but at the same time setting boundaries with people where they can and cannot cross them. It's almost like you find your strength in this now. You've kind of like found your strength. You've discovered a strong sense of self. You've kind of overcome a lot of these challenges that you've already been through. Now, it's interesting. Your dreams need a practical plan. Something that I'm seeing here is that right now you're a very active and intuitive person. Like you live a very pretty fast-paced life. You like got a lot going on. Your intuition is pretty strong, and your emotional ups and downs with your life and your life experiences, and also your own emotions, kind of create a little bit of instability. I'm sensing somewhat of a sense of instability here. So your dreams need a practical plan. It means you need to like, from this point forward, it's like the cards are urging you to like basically say like, what are some practical steps I can take to achieve this goal? Taurus is an earth sign, so it's all about slowing down and moving slowly and steadily forward. Let's get a chakra card, chakra love card to keep the reading going. I apologize if I lost momentum. Oh my gosh, another crown chakra card. Okay, so we have this blue stone, which I'm going to guess is celestite, but let's see what it is. It is rainbow moonstone. I was wrong there. Okay, so calmness. To calm your monkey mind, do not feed the animal. Okay, that's really important here because with Eight of Wands, it looks like you want a really fast-paced environment. With Queen of Cups, there's a lot of ups and downs. So it's almost like the kind of stuff that was put upon you in your childhood has kind of created this kind of chaotic, overactive nature in this particular present moment. And with calmness, this is like a really important factor because the universe is trying to show you that you don't actually have to be so active in order to get what you want. It's important because I definitely see that you're looking for that active, fast-paced environment because you need a way to burn that excess energy. But with Rainbow Moonstone, this is about calming down and really getting in touch with your like intuitive capabilities. We have a third crown chakra. So it's like you're still realizing you're still realizing things about the universe and how the universe works. You're not fully there yet, basically. But at the same time, there is this element of just still getting those downloads, getting that information, having that clear knowing, that clear sense of knowing of what you want. So basically finding a place to utilize and put your energies into motion where you can like let your energies free and kind of like, how do I explain this? Because it's almost like now it's like what you want to do, right? Before it was like everyone putting their burdens on you and stuff, and like you had to move and you had to do all these things that you didn't really want to do, and like fate had all this in store. But now you're seeing this bright future and you're taking action. You're taking like a fast-paced action with this situation. So with calmness, to calm your monkey mind, do not feed the animal. Sometimes your mind might get as fast as your body or as far as your actions go. So this is about like calming down. And specifically what I'm seeing is like a stone that could help in the present. We have Rainbow Moonstone there, and Rainbow Moonstone, let's look at that right there, could be a stone that could help you in this specific situation get calm and get more in tune with the intuitive side of yourself. Because right here we have the Queen of Cups, which is like all about like receiving, right? Where she's kind of just looking in the bowl. She's kind of keep doing a hands-off approach. And Eight of Wands is this fast action-oriented card, basically. So basically taking a hands-off approach with your mind and basically letting yourself calm down and relax is going to be really important for your development, as well as your dreams need a practical plan. So making sure you take those practical steps towards achieving your goals, not getting too lost in the action and trying to get those things done and the fast-pacedness of it, but having your dreams have like a practical plan to like move from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, kind of moving in kind of more of a methodical fashion would definitely help you guys right now. You're kind of realizing that. I see right now with this, your dreams need a practical plan, is you're like, you're kind of getting the idea of like, you want to know you want to work in a fast-paced environment. You want to know you want to use your intuition and kind of like your abilities, but you're just kind of figuring out like where you want to put your inspiration. You know, Eight of Wands can be a card about inspiration, and it's like you're inspired to act, but it's like you need that plan to move forward, basically. It's interesting. In your future, with the Fool and the Wheel, it's almost like you live a fresh life in the future, which is kind of interesting because your past was like very hard, a lot of hardships. But with the Fool card here, this Fool person is surrendering to this lake. You know, she's about to just like drop off. She has a crystal in one arm, a staff in the other, and she's about to drop off into this flower of life below her. You know, her crystal is emanating energy. I don't know if you can see that. Her crystal's kind of emanating energy. And she just has all these things, and she's basically letting herself fall backwards into this lake. This is a key point in your future with don't let pride get in your way. This is actually not focused on some kind of advice, but this is something that you're learning. If you ever had a sense of pride, or if you are developing a kind of a sense of pride right now in your younger years or in your present, it's almost like in your present you have kind of this, even though you're moving in kind of a fast-paced way, it's almost like you have this sense of pride of who you are and where you're coming from, where you came from, in the sense of like what you've overcome, right? But by the end of your life, the sense of pride just kind of fades away. It's interesting, and this whole ability with this connection with the universe just gets stronger by the end of your life. Basically, in the end of your life, there's going to be a lot of synchronicities. There's going to be a lot of synchronistic happenings. With the wheel, it's interesting. You've almost mastered, this wheel is a symbol of mastery, right? It's basically you've mastered this element, the wheel of fortune, right? You've been through lows, you've been through highs, and you kind of end up like with the Queen of Cups, there's a lot of ups and downs, basically. And by the end of your life, you really realize that each up and down is a light and dark side to the universe. Each experience that you had in your story as your development was represented something light and something dark that was going on. And with the Fool surrendering to the universe, you're surrendering to the wheel, you're surrendering to fate, you're surrendering to kind of what's going and happening to you. And with Don't Let Pride Get in the Way, this is the one thing that you're realizing is the thing that has stopped you from kind of like developing basically and reaching your full potential. Dropping the pride, dropping that kind of ego by the end of your life and basically surrendering to the newness with the Fool card. It's the beginning, it represents the beginning of the major arcana, right? So surrendering to the journey, surrendering to the newness. And the wheel is kind of the middle point of the major arcana. It's like halfway through, right? So you do have these cards on like almost polar sides of the spectrum. I feel like the world is more the wheel's opposite side, but it's almost like you're kind of in, it's like at the end of your life, you're beginning your spiritual journey. And it's interesting. I don't see you kind of like finishing your spiritual journey by the end of your life, but I definitely see you coming into this next life after this one with like a strong spiritual underpinning to your reality, basically, to like how you operate and how you start your life out in the next life. But I'm definitely seeing here that you kind of get to explore this spiritual side of yourself in later life. You might have like more of an intuition in later life where you kind of develop a more intuitive component to your nature. But yeah, just these glimpses of the universe and kind of seeing what the universe has like brought you after this, believe in the impossible, seeing that light. This is kind of the moment where you're in the light, right? If you look at the blue moon turning into this yellow moon, it's like the light switch turned on, you know? And it's interesting because we have this transition to blue, green to yellow. And it's kind of like a rainbow effect. So you can think of this as like not only ups and downs, but also like light colors or light spectrum colors. So if you think of this as an archway of your life, you're starting from one end and you're going to the other end of the rainbow, basically. The rainbow can also be another metaphor for this particular reading, like the rainbow, there's the rainbow at the end of the storm, the thunderstorm and the rain, and then at the end there's this rainbow. And so it's like this beautiful thing after the chaos and like destruction of the beginning of the storm, basically. So let's get a chakra card, chakra love card for the last little bit of this reading. Okay. Man, a lot of heart chakra stuff is happening today. So we have this card right here, which is Malachite. So we have Malachite, forgiveness. You'll find freedom in forgiveness. Oh, this really ties it in. And that makes sense with the pride. Part of this thing that's going on in your future, right, is with pride getting in the way and how you're connecting with the universe. And I did not see this at all. So I'm glad this card came out because it adds an element that needs to be spoken about. There might have been some people in your past that you really resent and kind of, like, it's interesting. There's some people that kind of gave you a hard time in life and you had a really difficult time in the beginning, basically, in your past. And it kind of could have created a sense of pride or boundaries, basically, between you and others. And we see that here with the Queen of Cups, basically, by using your empathy and basically kind of controlling your environment so these things don't happen to you anymore. I'm definitely seeing that you still have these grudges towards people, but it's not as important as this part of your life. This part of your life is meant to be lived. The present right now, where you're in right now, is meant to be lived. You're meant to utilize this energy, basically. But in later life, you might look back on all the transgressions of your past and even your present, maybe a little bit, and forgive the people that did these things to you. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking like, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I possibly could, because whatever happened in the past, that struggles that you went, it's not even about it's also about not just forgiving the people in the past, but even forgiving the universe, for example, for like dealing you this hand, or forgiving your kind of like own life path, forgiving the situations that kind of happened to you in the beginning and opening your heart in the end. It says you'll find freedom and forgiveness. And this wheel of fortune is definitely reminding me of freedom. And so does the Fool. The Fool reminds me of freedom as well. So it's interesting because, so I think that I'm just going to guess that this cut me off at the moment of my outro because my video is not showing me the last clip that I filmed. I know I filmed it, but it's going to load later because I know how my phone works. Anyway, so hopefully it loads later. Anyway, I really enjoyed reading for you guys. If you liked the video, like or comment below. If you really like the video, you can subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this once every 1 to 2 weeks. I really enjoyed having you here today with us on the channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers, so feel free to subscribe if you want to. And yeah, that was the last reading for today, and I really enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next pick a card. Bye.